I'm Greg Jones, and this is The Capital Machine, where execution friction becomes strategic growth.
Hey, Colin, thank you for joining us today. And we just want to hear a little bit about you and a little bit about your Atsign company, and we'll go ahead and jump right in and take it from there. So tell me a little bit about your origin story of Atsign and how did it start and why?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So about over a decade ago, myself and one of my co-founders, Kevin Nichols, were having an argument. We were both working at a bank, and we were starting up an innovation lab for a large bank, Deutsche Bank, namely. And the argument went like this: the internet sucks. I'm like, yeah, but why does it suck? That's because everybody's got your data, and you don't seem to have any control over about it. So everyone's giving over your data and you've got no control, which sounds familiar even like a decade later. My take on it was that, true, but what's even more annoying is every time I log into a new product or service, they need to know who the hell I am. Yeah, what's your name? What's your address? Prove your email, prove your phone number. Yeah, and we still do that dance today, and it drives me crackers. So if you combine those two things, that's the problem. We didn't do anything about it, but we did identify the problem. And the problem is, what's the simplest way to assert an identity on the internet? And then how can you prove it's you? So that's really what we're doing. And then we got sidetracked. We wrote some code and none of it, everything worked, but it was never going to scale. And I'm a former telco guy. And if it's not going to scale, then it's just useless. We were using blockchain and DNS to write some demo code. Did it work? Yes. Was it going to scale? No. We put it to bed, although we thought it was an incredibly good idea. Fast forward to 6 years ago, Kevin and I had left Deutsche Bank to move up into the Sierras. I live just outside Yosemite now. And Kevin and I met up and we were discussing like what we should do next. And we went through our list of ideas, and this is the one that we still think is a $10 billion idea. If every person, entity, or thing could have their own unique string, and they could own their own data behind it, and they could cryptographically send data, sign data between themselves, and that would just change the world and make the internet a better place. And so we started writing code, and we were very lucky. There's a stream of sort of luck or influence from outside around our company.
Of course, yeah.
We need that, and that sort of test code became something that was interesting to investors. Investors came in, and fixers, then you can exchange data across a hostile network safely and privately. And just from that little tiny idea, these massive things have emerged. It's an emergent story from there on in. The use cases are emergent. So yeah, that's the origin story. It was born out of an argument and lots of coffee.
That's fascinating. It's a lot of interesting ideas there, from technology to adoption to market impact. And that's a major
100%
swing and major ripple to try to create in an existing system. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's often we reached out to some of the great and the good in the internet. One of my friends knows one of the friends of Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And we're like, this is right at the beginning of the company. This is a really good idea. And we got the word back from Tim. This is the inventor of the World Wide Web. But that's ambitious. And
that's always a good goal.
That's ambitious from the guy who invented the World Wide Web. We'll take it. So yeah,
I think that's a good ingredient for business ideas. Ambitious.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So we didn't wimp away for being bold.
That's awesome. That's great. So what's been the hardest part of turning the original vision into something real that developers, consumers, and investors could really get behind, since it is such a big lift for something like that?
Massive lift. Yeah, massive lift. Yeah. I would say that the biggest, when we started the company, so Kevin and I both looked at each other and I don't want to be the CEO. And I definitely don't want to be the CEO. So I picked up the CTO role, and we brought in Barbara as CEO, as a co-founder. And she didn't know she was going to be the CEO. We sprung it on her. So getting the right team together is the basis. The three of us formed the company. We actually did have a fourth member who never actually got to join the team. So Raymond's out there as well. But the most difficult thing when you're starting a company that basically has no technological foundation is like, where do you start? We literally normally when you start these things, you have an open source project, and you can beg, borrow, and steal from an open source project because I know you're building something on top of the web, or you're building on something on top of Linux, or whatever. We had nothing, like zero. Literally, this is a brand new idea. Nobody's ever done it before. Where do you start? And you have to start with really simple demos, crazy, boringly simple demos. You have to go find the smartest people you can find and say, is this a good idea? So we were lucky enough to get a meeting with a very known VC, Sequoia, and we got to meet a guy called Bill at Sequoia, and he's one of the original architects of the Google infrastructure. And we told him what we were going to do. We showed him now it's a very naive demo, but I still have the code. Very naive demo of how this stuff works. And I remember him vividly, rolled back in his chair. That could work.
That's great.
Then it's just
that had to feel good.
It felt very good. Yeah, I actually did record the meeting of the three of us afterwards, after the meeting. So we've got that down in sort of company history. And
that's awesome.
We knew that we were onto something good. Now, did we get investment? No, that's a whole different pain, right? Getting investment.
Right.
But getting validation from people that you're on the right track, it's going to be very difficult. You have no idea how difficult it's going to be. How do you get the ball rolling? We met many of those folks. Many said it was a crazy idea because nobody cares about privacy. And that was 6 years ago. I think today, everybody cares about privacy.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to know whether what they see is real on the internet. Everybody wants to leverage AI, but they don't know how to do it safely. So I'm so pleased for those original conversations to embolden you that your dream could really make a big difference. And I think that's the toughest thing, right? So if you don't meet that bar, then you've got to be really passionate about yourself.
Absolutely.
And so we had this sort of, if you can do it, I love it, but we don't believe you can do it. So game on.
That's awesome. And I'm sure it's been a great adventure since then. So
it's been an incredible adventure. Yeah, it really has. Lots of twists and turns along the way. Yeah, without doubt.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, what assumptions did you make early on that turned out to be completely wrong?
Yeah, completely and utterly wrong was I'm a technologist, an engineer, and we had the original argument, myself and Kevin, that he's a developer, everything's an API. I'm an infrastructure person, everything's a protocol, and we were both wrong, right? I won the API protocol argument, so I think if you see companies now, there's consensus that protocol is the way to go.
Yeah.
API, sure, interesting, but if you're going to do something new, you need a new protocol. So I won that argument. I thought, this is it. I cracked it. I was right. Completely wrong. Although you need a new protocol, nobody's going to adopt it until you have a software development kit. So the real thing that you're going to engage with is a software development kit.
Right.
And we learned this in a very interesting way. So right from the outset, obviously, startup, strat for cash. Who you're going to call on? You're going to call on interns, of course. So in our first year, I think we had maybe 4 staff, but we had 21 interns. And we're explaining to the interns, this is what you can do. This is how the protocol works, and the rest of it. And they just looked at us, and I had no idea what you're talking about. just what are you talking about? Because nobody wants to learn about the inner workings of a brand new internet protocol that nobody's ever seen before. And we learned pretty quickly that we need to write an SDK. So it sure uses the protocol underneath, but there's probably 10 people on the planet that really care about writing a new protocol. I'm one of them.
Sure. So there's 9.
You need the software development kit on the top of it. And as soon as you have that, then you unleash people's ideas. So you can say to somebody, if you use this SDK, everything will be safe. Everything will be secure. You can go unleash your idea for a cool product or a cool company, and you just don't have to worry about all the stuff that you would have traditionally had to worry about. That was something we learned it quickly, but we didn't have on the outside that we were going to be actually writing an SDK.
What year did you release the SDK?
Well, that's
or the first version of it?
Probably 21, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
21. Yeah, it was very naive. I mean, you can look at our GitHub repo.
And then
it was very much
once you released it, once you released it, how much interaction or ideas did you get for
There's a massive
improvement
amount
or
of ideas on
yeah,
improvement, and we have bugs. Everybody has
yeah.
bugs,
Oh,
but
sure, of
yeah,
course. Yeah,
and where we focused originally was fascinating, and we've still got some people in that loop, in the original loop, which was, where can we test this SDK? Where is it going to get hammered? And that's in the consumer world, right? So consumer
right.
apps move very fast. Privacy needs to be part of a consumer app, you would think, and so that's why we started continue writing a software development kit that people could write really nice UI environments that were privacy first.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's
so
fascinating.
that's how we started our SDK. The client side of it, the bit that anybody interacts with, soon jumped the number of stars. Or GitHub is another good measure. I think,
Right.
we got to over 1K stars pretty quickly. But what we found very quickly as well was, although folks want to write those things, they take an awful lot of dedication to write a consumer app. You wouldn't imagine. I certainly didn't know how much effort you need to put into a consumer app to be
Absolutely.
like world
Yes.
class. Some
Absolutely.
of those people are still out there. My hats off to people like Crypto, who looked at our SDK and said, "Hey, I could build a blockchain on this." Did we ever think anybody could build a
Oh,
blockchain on top of this?
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Crypto team said, "We're going to build a private blockchain over the top of your SDK that can run on cell phones." So
That's cool.
blockchain doesn't run on cell phones, because but it can because of what you've done. I'm like, all right, Andy,
That's awesome.
please go for it. And that's exactly what they did.
That's exciting. That's super
It's
exciting.
super exciting. Yeah, I've never seen a blockchain used for instant messaging, but that was Andy's first demo.
Right.
Instant
Right.
messaging on a
Yeah.
blockchain. Crazy.
Yeah. That's very cool. On the
So
flip side of that, so we talked about what assumptions that you got wrong. So
yeah.
what did you get right early on that still gives you a competitive advantage, gives you that
Yeah.
edge today?
So that blank sheet of paper gives us a massive advantage, right? That blank sheet of paper at the beginning of the company, and both Kevin and myself and some of the engineering team that we gathered then, maybe not as employees, but consultants to Kevin's madness and Colin's
Right.
madness. What we did was architect properly. So literally nothing has changed in our architecture since day one. So we still have exactly the same technical architecture. We still have the same core code. And yet we've branched out into, originally it was, as I say, consumer apps. Then we broke into IoT, so you can run our
Right.
software on IoT devices and microcontrollers. People in the critical infrastructure space started gravitating towards us because
Right.
there's no attack surfaces. And that's
Right.
interesting for your
That's
running
kind
critical
of
infrastructure. You
important.
probably don't want to have any attack surfaces. And now we're working with folks that want to deploy AI at a different rate of speed than they're used to, and yet the architecture hasn't changed.
That's
Everything is
awesome.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
The core libraries are exactly the same. We haven't had to do a huge architectural pivot because we clearly hit the right architecture at the beginning,
That's pretty impressive.
which is
And
super unusual.
yeah, absolutely. Usually you have to go through so many iterations just to
Yeah.
get to that, even
Yeah.
90%
Yeah.
architectural flexibility. So
Yeah.
awesome job
So
on that.
that was, it continues to this day to surprise me. If somebody says, "Can you do this?" The answer's always been yes, which is
That's incredible.
unusual. Yeah.
That's highly unusual. Yeah.
So I think that's our major competitive advantage. You can build something on top of our platform that doesn't need massive architectural change. Now,
Right.
you have to learn how the architecture is way different from anything you've seen before, and you can't measure us against anything else, which is, that's the downside. Nobody looked like anything we've seen before. I don't understand it. That's a much more interesting challenge than it doesn't work.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good place to be in. That's
I think so.
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I think so.
So where are you seeing the most friction today? Is it in areas such as onboarding, team development, retention, product development, product messaging, or service messaging, or something else?
Yeah, we really should have Barbara, our CEO, to answer that question, because I think she's got all the pain points. I've got all the fun of technology that works.
That's fine. We could do a follow-up with her.
Yeah, you should maybe do a follow-up with Barbara, but I'm pretty sure she would tell you that their biggest pain point is what we built is far too good at too many things. Because we literally can say, "Can you solve my Starlink problem?" I'm like, yes. Can you solve my nuclear program and protect it from bad guys? Yes. I'm like, That's too wide a spectrum of things.
Yes.
Focus, call it focus.
Right.
And when you're building something that really was to literally change the world, you can't focus because it needs to be, the architecture, as I say, needs to be able to deal with every single use case. But that's been a massive struggle for the company, is give the tools to the right people so they can go do stuff. Which area of the market do we focus on right now? And what we've tended to do is focus on the things that make most architectural sense, but to as much of the audience as possible.
And where are you guys as far as just, you architected it, you developed the SDK, you deploy it, and you give it to consumers or other businesses or organizations? How much do you have your hands in them implementing it? Or do you just hand it off and then, or you come on as developers or advisors?
That's a brilliant question. So we've got three main routes. Number one route is train the trainers. So work with SIs that can take our stuff they're used to taking things like we have and then bringing it to their customers. That works beautifully, but you have to learn our stuff, right? So there's an investment and there's some trust and all the rest of it. And so what we decided to do was a bit like Microsoft. Nobody's going to buy Windows unless there's Office, right? So, which one's more important, Office or Windows? Office, because that's the product that proves that Windows is actually useful, right? So early days, it was all about the product and not the operating system. So if you imagine we're an operating system for the internet or whatever, then you've got to have a product. So we decided which product are we going to build ourselves using our own technology? And so we built a product which really came out of a demo. It was a demo that we used to show, which was, we didn't even have we called it SSH no port. So there's a protocol called SSH. It's used for remote administrating machines. And at the time, there'd just been a massive problem with SSH in that you could have what they call a pre-authorization attack. So the way the internet works, or IP networks work, is you have to have a door open so somebody can get to that and then authenticate. So you get to the door, then you say, this is me, and they say, prove it, and that's how you get in. But what if you could bypass that? Then you've just got an open door. That's bad. And that's exactly what happened. There was basically a authentication bypass method for SSH. Now, you see this all the time with all the other protocols as well.
Absolutely.
RDP, and you name a protocol. The way TCP IP on the internet works is there's a door open, they call it a port. There's a port open, it's listening, and then you get to the port, then you open it, and then you say it's me. Very bad if you're running critical infrastructure to have SSH doors open, and you can have as good authentication you can if you can bypass the authentication. Demo was this. What if you could get to an SSH, roll into SSH just as you normally do, but have no ports open? And we get told that's impossible. You've got to have ports open. But what if you couldn't? That'd be great. Let me show you that. So we basically showed, you can use the platform to write applications like this. You can remote access into a machine that has no doors open.
That's incredible. Yeah.
What happened was, they're like, that platform stuff's interesting, but that no port stuff, we'll buy that. I'm like, okay, we're learning.
That's awesome.
So that's the product. And we spun it out of the sort of the Atsign platform stuff. It's its own brand, doing its own business. And it's no port. So it basically does remote access.
That's incredible.
Don't care what the IP address is. If you have an @sign, then wherever it is, you'll be able to, if the @sign can see the internet, then you'll be able to get to it, but there's no doors open.
That's incredible.
I know it sounds impossible, but trust me, we have plenty of customers using it. And so that means that if somebody says, what can you do with this? I'm like, have you looked at no ports? I'm like, that's the sort of stuff you can do. No ports is doing its own. It's two reasons for no ports. Number one, it's a great product, and I use it myself, and we use it ourselves inside our own company because we don't want attack services. But it also acts as an ambassador for what you can do. It's obviously a complex bit of software, and it's got cryptography and all sorts of clever stuff in it.
Absolutely.
But it's using the platform, and that's why without the platform, none of this stuff is possible. So if you want to do the same with pick your favorite system, if you want to make something that's on the internet today, and it has to be on the internet, it has to have doors open, and maybe you've got a limited audience that can see the door, well, perfect, right? To everybody else, it's invisible. To people that are allowed to get there, they can get there. But there's no doors open, no ports. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, but that's what you can do with anything, right? The platform allows you to do that. So that's the other route to market. And then the obvious one then is developers. We're just a bunch of developers at the end of the day.
Right.
And the SDK, everything we do is open source, and building up that open source presence with the whole of NoPorts is open source as well. So you can go and take a look.
Right.
Is how we get out to people to make their own dreams come true. But all the stuff we do is very painful. So it's if you're a developer having to do all that stuff,
yes,
God bless you, but I just don't want help contribute to our project so you can build something useful on top.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what are your different, speaking of that, pivoting off that, what are your different revenue streams? You have products.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, so we got things like NoPorts, just a product, and you can buy the product. You can be a consumer and buy the product, whether you're an individual or whether you're a large company, you can buy the product. You can use the SDK, and obviously the SDK is the software bit. There's always infrastructure because you need infrastructure to run on. The infrastructure needs watering and feeding. What's cool about the architecture is the bit that needs watering and feeding has no data. It can't see any data. It's basically infrastructure that never has the keys to your data. So you need the infrastructure for it to work, but whoever's running the infrastructure cannot see your data because they don't have the keys. So for a nominal fee, we have a SaaS business that says, do your developing, we'll look after the infrastructure for you. You can trust us because we literally never have any data. We literally have none of your data. Yeah, so we literally have none of your data. You can pay us to do that. So that's a revenue stream. And the other one, which is really interesting, and some of our customers have said, yeah, we love this, but we don't want it on the internet. We want it inside our own environment. So then it's like the Red Hat model. Yeah, it's service support, to keep that infrastructure up and running. And you can lift the whole thing and put it into an air-gapped environment or whatever.
And is that a pretty easy transition?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's easy. No, because there's a lot of work that we do to keep the infrastructure up and running. And if you're going to take on that role, you're going to have to do that work. So we issue literally hundreds of certificates every single year, every single day, rather. Tens of thousands of certificates. Just a certificate job is a full-time role for a robot.
Absolutely, yeah, and a critical piece of the puzzle too.
But if you're in one of those industries where it's super critical to make sure that nobody, even well-funded government bad actors, can get into your infrastructure, then you should put the effort in and
absolutely,
shut those doors.
Now, given those different revenue streams with products and services and things of that nature, what is preventing you from 10xing your growth or scale from a revenue perspective, from a technology adoption perspective, et cetera?
Yep. Yeah, so as you probably gathered, our technology is pretty good, and I'm very proud of it as a CTO. But if nobody knows about it, then it doesn't really matter, right? The biggest challenge at the moment is letting the market know that we exist, letting the market know what we can do without them going meh, right? Because I think if you were like an internet service provider in the early 90s, like, what do I need the internet for? You could be kidding me. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Go back to your nerddom.
Yeah. So there's like an education
and
piece
I think there's a lot of education to be done, a lot of excitement that we need to generate. Some of the things we can enable, I think, are super exciting. And I think that's definitely part of it. I think the other part of it is letting people know that we can help them accelerate their adoption of new technologies. That's a story I'm focusing on enormously at the moment. There's a huge amount of pressure on companies. Every board that I get involved in is saying, like, why are we not driving at AI? Why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? And the reasons are real why we're not doing that, because we can use agents to replace employees. Okay, sure, great. Do you trust your agents as much as you trust your employees? Should you? How can you put guide rails around that? And that just slows things down. So there's a time tax on innovation.
Absolutely.
And I want to remove that time tax. You can have both. And telling that story is probably our biggest factor on holding us back at the moment. And once we can tell that story, obviously we need people to tell that story. We need people to go out into the world and tell the story. And that's undoubtedly, it's not that the market's holding us back. It's not that we haven't got a good idea. There's just lots of noise out there. If you probably know this
Absolutely.
yourself if you're listening, right? You've
Tons
probably
of
got a
noise.
really good thing that you're doing, and there's so
Yeah.
much noise, and the big players drown you out.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, that I think is a pretty common problem. I haven't solved that one other than make it as good product as you can and make it as easy for your customers as they can deploy it, and then just be remarkable. So what I mean by that is when your customers remark that, hey, I just did this and you should do it too. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be as remarkable as possible.
So I know that with that, I think there's two problems. There's one, educating the consumer or investor or whatever. And then two, there's once they're educated, getting them on board. And then so from your perspective, what's preventing faster customer adoption, considering those two aspects?
Yeah, I think it's just getting that story out there. It really is. What we found is once somebody has started to use us and then they realize that they can use us for other things, they become our biggest fans.
That's awesome.
And that's what we're looking for. We want customers so happy they have to go tell somebody else. And you just got to, is that hard work? Yeah, sure it is. And have you got to listen to every single customer comment? Sure you have. And that's what we're trying to do. But you run out of people pretty quickly to try and tell the story. Yeah. If you want to help me tell the story, please get in contact.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good call. And it sounds like a pretty important cause.
I think so, yeah. Just make the internet a safer place and give
internet businesses, individuals, I think it
just accelerates. Yeah. It just accelerates. If you're not worried about privacy and security, then you can focus on other things. And that's going to give you competitive advantage.
So from a CTO role, from a company organization role, how do you balance just dealing with the day-to-day fires in an organization and then also trying to project growth and focus on moving ahead into the future?
You got it. Yeah. So don't have fires. We literally, that's what we've tried very hard to do. We have one engineer in particular, a guy called Chris Swan, who I've worked with for many decades, who is DevSecOps sort of extraordinaire. And you basically need to have that attention. So everything is automated, and literally everything. We're a DevSecOps organization, and we use GitHub for everything. So there's a GitHub action for pretty much everything. And so scaling should never be a problem because it's just another automation away to scale. I think Chris has proved that pretty well. And we know that we can scale to a crazy amount, but we also need to change our software architecture a bit. And so you need to have that in your back pocket to be able to scale even more. So we know how to scale to millions of Atsigns. That's the problem. That's not a problem. We can do that right now. And we also, and this is critically important, we also know how to scale to at least 50 billion Atsigns.
Oh, that's
we literally know how to do that. Have we written the code to do that? No, because it's going to take some investment to do that.
Architecturally,
we know how to do it. And so you don't get painted into a corner. And so do we have fires? Yeah, we do, but they tend to be controlled because we've got infrastructure and software that can deal with fires. So Chris is very keen on Chaos Monkey. This was brought to bear by the Netflix guys. He followed the Netflix guys very closely. Team causing chaos, another team trying to keep infrastructure up. And so you have to think like that, right? So what if this break? What if that break? How does it deal with it? And so we've used some very new technology and some very old technology in combination to be able to deal with that. And we work very hard to be lazy in the future.
That's a good plan. Try to automate everything.
Everything's automated. Literally, everything's automated. And if it isn't automated, then
it's on the list.
Over the weekend, I wanted some stuff automated, and by the time they got up on Monday morning, Chris had already done it. Yeah,
that's brilliant. What a great member to have on your team.
There was actually a couple of people that I'd worked with. Actually, Kevin and I'd worked with over the years, and we if we could have Chris and Gary in the same company, that would be just incredible.
That's awesome.
We are very fortunate to have Chris and Gary in the company. And that's literally a dream come true.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are your current growth strategies and where are you struggling to break through with some of those?
Yeah, current growth strategy is around something that will probably resonate with many of your listeners. And that is board shouting, get AI into my company. And if you're in IT and risk, and I come from the IT and risk background on Wall Street, looking after the firewalls for Credit Suisse back in the day, and Deutsche Bank running the innovation lab. Trying to do anything fast in a large organization is very difficult because there's the white blood cells that are trying to protect the bank, and there's the infectious disease, the AI trying to change everything. And it's never a pretty story. We want to make that story pretty.
Yes.
How can you help IT and risk provide a architecture that you can build and use AI on top of it without breaking any rules, not getting to trouble with your regulators, not getting taken over by state bad actors, and yet enabling the business for AI. And so that's our growth strategy. We want to remove, as I said before, this time tax on ideas in large enterprises. And that, I think, is, there's massive growth there, but there's also a reason to do it.
Absolutely.
It's great. Timing. As I say, there's been an overhand looking after us at Atsign just when we need that lucky break or that right connection or the rest of it. But this is definitely where we see massive growth.
Absolutely.
We're not doing anything particularly AI. We're just enabling AI catalyst to allow both sides of, who are both doing great jobs. You can't say to the IT guys and the risk guys that you're not doing a great job. They really are, but they're bounded by technology that really wasn't built for this scenario. What we're saying is we've got software and a software architecture that's built for this scenario. You can still do your job. You can still provide policy. You can still provide governance, but you can also enable all this stuff in a safe way, provide some guide rails, your AI rollout. Now, we're not doing that through some AI cleverness. We're just not in that space. We're a software infrastructure company, but join those two things together, I think is just a massive growth opportunity, and can speed business up and make them secure, which has always been a double-edged sword. You're either slowing down because you're saying no, or you're speeding up and taking risk. And I don't want to, when I was on Wall Street, I don't want to take that. I don't want that to be an argument anymore. I want both. And that does need structural change and architectural change. But the upside is massive, right? So
I think it's huge.
That's all we're focused on right now.
And what a critical time, given the strong push worldwide for AI adoption. And
100%.
AI technology is advancing so quickly. And so I think there's a lot of people that have that fear factor. Some of it I think is definitely worth discussing. And some of it I think is just not grounded in reality. And so I think there's an education piece there. I think there's what you're talking about, putting in the right guardrails, both AI guardrails as well as underlying infrastructure and software. I think it takes that hybrid approach to be able to solve that.
I think so. And it just so happens that the stuff that we built for all those problems before, as I say, this is a universal problem for Barbara, our CEO. What's it useful for? Like everything. But this is where there's immediate pain, right? Speak to my former colleagues on Wall Street. This is an immediate pain. And then I spoke to lots of customers like, I'm getting hassled for the board to roll out AI, but if I do, then I take this risk. And you need to do both. You need to take no risk, or less risk. You want to take less risk and have faster adoption of AI systems. And so we can help.
And I think AI has definitely proven that it's a viable component that needs to be part of.
100%. Yeah, our board's no different from any other board. Our board chairwoman of the board said to me, why are we not using AI? I'm like, that's a good question. So let me take a look.
Let me get back to you.
Here's an interesting story. So on the back of that, thanks, Kim Perticue's our chairwoman, I took a personal challenge to use AI within our software framework to write a safe chat application, so like WhatsApp, right? So can you do that? And I just, because I'm a nerdy person, I just wanted to do it on the command line. I want a command line version of WhatsApp. Great. 3 days, that was up and working. And wow, that was surprising. And there's using our software frame. Basically, I got Claude. And the other part of the challenge, I didn't want to write a single line of code, not a single line of code. So purely Vibe, but telling Vibe, here's the app platform, here's the documentation, here's the GitHub repo. You write me a chat terminal, and 3 days we Vibe coded that together. So up the ante a little bit more and do a full-on GUI version that can still talk to the terminal version. That took a little bit longer, 3 weeks. And that's up and working. The repo's on my personal repo. You can take a look at it.
That's pretty impressive.
You can send files, you can send pictures, you can do whatever you like. You log in with an Atsign, and that whole environment is deployable into an enterprise right now.
That's incredible. Yeah. What?
That's crazy. So that's
Right. What?
combining our guide rails of the platform and all the SDK we wrote. We made
Right.
sure that everything's extremely automatically documented. Everything's memory safe, and now it's network safe because you're using our software as a guide rail. So there's no ports open at all.
That's awesome.
There's no
Yeah.
ports open. There's no attack service at all.
What a great application of AI.
Yeah, but there's no reason why our customers can't use that. Just a demo. It took probably 10 days of banging my head against the wall with Claude. No, do this because I really wanted to change the lines of code. But my rule to myself was I'm not allowed to write a single line of code. That was very painful. I know what you got to do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's that cyclical interaction with AI to try to get it to give you exactly what you want. It takes some refinement.
Sometimes it comes up with better ideas than I would have done. So there's a gnarly problem that I wanted to solve. And you know what? I don't know how to solve this. I've got lots of ideas. I'm going to give up to Claude. They'll come up with a better idea than I did, frankly. And we'll probably use that in other places. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So it sounds like you've had just a very successful journey from an idea, seed idea years ago, and then incubating that, getting adoption, actually implementing it, and then you are where you are today. And then, so what does the next 12 to 18 months look like for you? What would success look like? And what needs to happen inside and outside of your company to make that happen?
Yeah, you got it. Clearly, we need investment. We need investment to get the word out. That's our biggest problem. Getting the word out, and there's no other way. You just have to spend to get that word out. Unfortunately, good ideas sitting on the shelf are just good ideas sitting on the shelf.
Absolutely.
So we're raising money right now to help us get sales, technical marketing, more demos, helping customers, going to trade shows, all the rest of it. That's imperative for us. So that's our biggest holding back to a factor at the moment. But what does success look like? This is a $10 billion idea.
Right.
And I've been told that by the engineers that are working on it. If they saw it, they would be using it.
Right.
So we know we're onto something absolutely huge here. We know we're onto something that can help so many people speed up innovation without risk, and we can protect critical infrastructure and national interests. Please step forward, investors.
Right.
So that it's certainly a journey, but we're upping our game now because I think the stakes are just too big. I mean,
Absolutely.
the stakes are just too big. I don't want to overplay it, but I worry every day when I open up my laptop and I see a bad thing happening. And like, geez, we could have prevented that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the most soul destroying part of my job is, geez, why don't these people know about us? Because they've got attacked or they've got every day. Something's broken. There's this CVE for this, CVE for that. Like that's because they've got a damn port open. Shut the damn port. That's impossible, but it isn't anymore. It really isn't anymore.
Right, because you guys have
no reason for it
other
than the fact we've made that stuff possible. And that's the most frustrating thing about true invention is nobody's using it. So I'm sure Henry Ford had the same problem.
Absolutely.
I got this car. But I don't need that. I got a horse.
Yeah, I've got a horse.
Until the city was full up with horse manure, then it really wasn't an issue. And I think that's the stage we're at now, is that there's just not tolerance for not adopting AI. There's no tolerance for it.
And I think it's perfect timing from a market and society perspective to start pushing some of this stuff.
I think so, yeah. And does it take a long time to build this stuff? Yeah, we've been on a journey 6 years. This stuff is tough. Have we got an unfair advantage? Yeah, we deserve it.
It's still a hard problem. And it sounds like you guys
it's an incredibly hard problem, without a doubt. But everything we've done is open source. You can go look at it, see how we've done it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So who is your ideal investor and who's your ideal customer?
So ideal investor is somebody who is as passionate about what we're doing as we are. And I cannot thank our investors enough because they've all been that passionate from the beginning, because they recognize this is change the world stuff and this is doing good for the world, right? Not at the risk of something else happening. This is good for everybody.
Yeah.
All boats float, right? In terms of customer, it's somebody who's willing to go on the journey with us. As they see problems, bring them to us. We're working on them together. Yeah, that's the customers we have right now, frankly. I just need a lot more of them. That'd be great. But if you're a CTO out there, a large company, getting beaten on the head by your CEO and the board to roll out AI, but you worry about the risk, then give me a call. But I think there's going to be plenty of those. I really do.
Absolutely. And so thank you for taking time to talk with us today. And just in closing, what's the best way for people to reach out to you or your organization? if they're
Yeah,
interested.
so you can look us up at atsign.com. My email address is colin@atsign.com.
Awesome.
And just reach out to me directly. If you don't want to go direct, then info@atsign.com is fine. If you're more interested on the sort of the product, make myself invisible, then noports.com, and you can take a look over there. But
awesome.
I'm really keen on discussion at the moment because I want to understand what the problems really are and what you're facing.
Absolutely.
Although we're a technology company, we're actually a people company first. We actually want to speak to people.
Because that's who you're protecting.
Many companies don't think that way, but you can see, just look at our logo. It's a picture of a face, right? There's a clue there.
Right. That's awesome. Colin, thank you again for taking time and being so candid and transparent, and appreciate you sharing your ideas and struggles and successes with us.
Well, thank you, and thank the listener for listening in. Yeah, it's a tough journey, but it's one worth taking.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll catch you another time. I'd love to have a follow-up on some of these topics with you.
Anytime. Thanks for your time.
The AI piece is definitely fascinating.
Oh, yeah, we can definitely deep dive into that. I think that'll be another interesting story. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Take care.
Take care. Thanks.
I'm Greg Jones. Thanks for joining The Capital Machine. Full transcripts and frameworks at thecapitalmachine.com. For direct access, gregory.jonesaprimsec.com. See you next week.